Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 966B, and today's date is May 9th, 2016, and the title of the episode is DHS Prepares for a Bioterrorism Attack with a Drill in New York City Subway System. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, we understand the U.S. government central bankers, their objective is to control the flow of information. Now, in the past, before the internet, they have complete control of the corporate media. And people went to the corporate media to find their news. And whatever the government instructed them to tell the people, that's what they told them, and people believed it. Then we had the internet, where alternative media, new media, or whatever you like to call it, started to pop up. And they couldn't control these people because they were a bunch of individuals like myself. They didn't have an advertising budget. Most of the people were just doing it on their own, researching, looking things up, and trying to put the truth out there. And of course, the U.S. government central bankers, they do not like this whatsoever. They don't want the truth out there. They don't want you looking into things. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to capture the market in social media. And we see that Facebook right now is creating this new news system where they're saying, oh, it's called grassroots, and what the people are looking at, that's what's going to be trending. We're not going to touch it. We're going to be completely neutral. And then we come to find out that this is all fake, phony, and false, just like everything else. And it looks like the government has their fingers within Facebook, and they're not as neutral as everyone believes. A Facebook spokesperson came out and they said, listen, we manipulate the news on Facebook. We see what's there, what's trending, what's not trending, and what we do is we adjust things. Now, we know why this is happening. We realize it. We understand that the U.S. government central bankers, they need to control the narrative of the story. And a lot of the intelligence agencies, they use these social network platforms to control and to spy on the people to see what is actually going on and what they're talking about. For instance, Twitter, the U.S. government, the CIA, one of the agencies, they were using Twitter to gather real-time data, trying to find terrorists. And the CIA, they used QTEL, a venture capital investor in high-tech companies, to plug into Twitter, to data mine all the information, and they would sift through millions of Twitter messages for information unfolding about terrorist attacks and other activities. Twitter said, you know something? We don't want to continue with the relationship with InQtel, and we'd like to sever this. We don't want the government sifting through our information, because what they're really doing is they're spying on the everyday person, looking for trends, looking for people and what they're talking about the government. Are they anti-government? Are there groups that are getting together? Are they forming? And they're looking for these patterns and trends so they can squash them later on. And what we see right now is they're taking it even further. Now what they're trying to do is they're trying to go after certain journalists that are reporting on the elections or anything else. And the Secret Service right now, they're going to be running background checks on journalists when they're attending certain events. And if they don't pass the muster, guess what? They will not be allowed in. Now, this is not in accordance with the First Amendment. What they're doing is they're being very selective. Now, the problem with this is that there's no established criteria. There's no appeal. And the Selective Service, and I'm sure this is going to go to many other agencies, they're just going to decide without showing any proof of why you can and cannot do this. And Jonathan D. Salant from the Star-Ledger, a Washington correspondent, and he's also the chairman of the Standing Committee of Correspondence, said, I think it's the government is deciding who can and can't be a journalist. And I don't think the First Amendment allows that, and it doesn't. It's the freedom of the press. There is absolutely no reason to go through a background check on a journalist. The only reason you would do this is if you don't want certain people reporting on what's going on. And it seems like this is what they're trying to accomplish at this point. Now, out in the Netherlands, we see that a surveillance bill was leaked. And it turns out the Minister of the Interior, Ronald Plasterk, persists on granting the Secret Services the power to carry out bulk interception of innocent citizens' communications. Now, it looks like they're joining the UK, Germany, the United States, and we're starting to see that all these private Western Central Bank countries, they're all doing the same thing. Government is spying on the people. They're very nervous about their populations. And the law would allow the interception of all communications that run through the KPN hotspots in a single city up to a year. And they're going to be gathering all this information on their people, and they're going to be sifting through it, just like they do here in the United States, in Canada, Australia, UK, Germany, throughout Europe. It seems we're heading down the same track, and all of these governments that are connected to the private Western Central Bank system, they're being instructed at this point to do this because they're very nervous about what the people are going to do. These people see the population as a threat to their authority. Instead of working with the people and being part of the people, they feel that they're separate and apart from the people in their country. And this is why they always go down the same path. And if we look back in history, it's always the same thing. They end up spying on the people. They try to understand what the people are doing. They try to head it off before the people rise up and take the governments down. Now, we understand the United States government central bankers out in South America. They've been trying to remove the elected governments and put into place puppet governments, just like they did in Libya, Yemen, Iraq, Lebanon, trying to do in Syria right now. They already did it in Ukraine and many other places. And they had an opposition leader from the UNC party, German Mever, and he was killed, assassinated in Venezuela. And Maduro appeared on state TV tying Mever to armed groups and suggested that more right-wing politicians are potential targets. Now, we see there's a lot going on here. We understand the United States government central bankers, they're intertwined in this, trying to remove Maduro at this time. And we also see the United States government central bankers are in Brazil trying to remove Rousseff, and their main goal at this point is to break up the BRIC nations. And they're trying and doing whatever they possibly can to do this. And this is a situation that we need to continually watch and see what's going on there. Now, the U.S. is continually saying that North Korea, they're launching ballistic missiles, they're exploding nuclear weapons, and so far there's absolutely no proof. So far there's no satellite proof of anything. They're just using this as propaganda. And North Korean leader Kim Jong-un was out there saying, listen, we would like to talk to the United States about peace. And he's out there saying that we will not use nuclear weapons unless we are invaded or attacked. Well, this is perfect for the United States government central bankers and the agencies, because all they have to do is set up some type of false flag event, make it look like North Korea did something, and then go in and invade North Korea, let North Korea use their nuclear weapons, and the U.S. could say, we're at all-out war. They used a nuclear weapon. They started it. And we could see where this could all lead. But besides that, he is out there saying that he wants more talks with South Korea. He wants to reduce the misunderstanding and the distrust. And he's willing to talk to any leaders. He wants the United States to stay away from inter-Korean issues, which is very interesting because we are seeing this up in Ukraine, where they want the United States away from the situation. In Iraq, where they want the United States away from the situation. In Libya, they want the United States away from the situation. Yemen, they want the United States away from the situation. And more countries are coming out saying, the main problem here is the United States. We don't want them involved in our situation. In the South Pacific with China, China's saying, listen, we're going to talk to all the other countries, but we don't want the United States government central bankers involved. So what is the common factor in all of this? It is the United States government. They're the ones who are continually pushing these types of problems. Now, the refugee crisis is growing and growing each day. We know the EU decided to blackmail many of the EU member states with a €250,000 refugee penalty. And Poland is out there. They're being very vocal right now, and they're saying that we are not going to be accepting any more refugees. They pose a threat to security, and we're not complying with the blackmail of the EU. And just like every other EU country out there saying, listen, we don't want you to control our sovereignty. We're going to control our own country. And we're not going to pay these fines. We're not going to do what you say. So we're seeing a lot of the European states objecting to a non-elected body telling them what to do. And we're seeing a lot of these countries set up fences. They're not accepting the refugees. And we need to go to the source of the problem once again. Where are all these refugees coming from? They're coming from the Middle East. What is happening in the Middle East? Well, we have war in Yemen. We have war in Libya. We have war in Lebanon, in Iraq, in Syria. Who is pushing all of these wars? The United States government central bankers. What are they doing in each one of these countries? They are replacing the elected governments with puppet governments, or new puppet governments, because the old puppet governments didn't do what they wanted. To keep control of all these countries, they need to keep control of those people who don't want these puppet governments in their countries, so they use drones. They call them terrorists. And people escape their country because each one of these countries, the economies are shot. There's constant war. And people are looking for a better life. So you have thousands, millions of people leaving each one of these countries. Same thing with Syria. The United States, they created this paid mercenary force, the Free Syrian Army, which then morphed into the Islamic State and Al-Qaeda al-Nusra. The people in Syria had to leave those areas that were conquered by the terrorist groups because life there was very difficult. There was torture. The United States would hit the infrastructure, destroy the entire infrastructure in that region, and the people would leave. They would all flow into Turkey. Turkey was the country where all the refugees flowed into. The United States gave them instructions to hold them there until they were needed, to force the European countries into doing what they want them to do, and that is go to war in Syria, to bring in more coalition forces, military assets, and this is the only way to stop this problem. So behind all of this, the United States is the problem once again. Now, the U.S. is out there, NATO is out there, the UN is out there, telling the unity government they must get parliamentary approval. Now, the Libya's Tobruk-based government, they have refused to hand over the power to the unity government. And right now, the parliament is not holding a vote. And this is a problem for the US, NATO, UK, Italy, and the rest of the coalition forces, because they really want to get into Libya. They want the ground troops there. They want to start bombing. And this is a major problem. And I don't know how long they're going to wait until they decide, okay, enough is enough. It is time to go in there. Because NATO continually is out there saying, we are ready to go into Libya as soon as they invite us in. And they just keep repeating it over and over and over. Now, in Turkey, it looks like they're using banned munitions. This is phosphorus. In 1983, UN Convention on Certain Conventional Weapons, they banned the use of incendiary weapons in indiscriminate attacks against civilians. And it looks like Turkey has done this on the Kurds in the south region of Turkey. Now, it's funny how the U.S. doesn't see this, doesn't look at this. It only reports about what's going on in Syria, where terrorists bomb a refugee camp, where terrorists hit a hospital, where terrorists, but they always say, oh no, it was Assad, oh no, it was Russia. But Turkey banning journalists, Turkey arresting individuals, Turkey stopping the freedom of press, Turkey using banned incendiary munitions. They don't say anything. Perfectly silent on the whole entire matter. Now, out in Iraq, it's not going well for United States government central bankers. The Iraqi people are out there, and they're convinced that they're really not on our side. And we know that Obama, his administration, they're continually bringing in more and more troops into Iraq because what's happening is the government is losing control of the situation, and that is the puppet government of the United States government central bankers. And the people are saying, listen, if you don't start working for us, you're going to be removed. And this is why we see a buildup of troops in this area. And what they're saying is that they have a lot of videos about U.S. supplies being dropped off for the Islamic State, that they create chaos in the region to protect the Islamic State. And a very high percentage of the people in Iraq are saying, we really don't want the U.S. in our country at this point. We want the government of our country to support us, not the U.S. And if they cannot do it, they're going to be removed. And this is a situation that we're going to have to watch very closely because, as we can see, the Obama administration is continually sending more and more troops into this area. Now, Russia has come out and said, listen, we have satellite photographs of Al-Quds hospital in Aleppo. And the U.S. right away, and we know as soon as someone comes out and says, yes, it was Assad, yes, it was Russia, they're the ones who did it. And of course, Russia and Syria had no planes in the area. And the U.S. is using this as propaganda because they've given no proof whatsoever. But Russia has come up with satellite photos going back to 2015 and saying it's impossible for us to destroy this hospital because it was not operational. It was hit back in 2015 and there was a huge amount of damage and it was not operational. So this was about 7 months ago. And they're out there saying, okay, U.S., show us otherwise. And of course, right now, the U.S. is very, very silent on this at this point. Because every time they're caught in propaganda, they can't show any proof whatsoever. And if they're going to tell us anything, the burden of proof is on our government. It's not on us. If they're going to come out and say something like this, they need to show proof. They need to show everyone where they're getting this information. Not just say it, because they're the ones who are making the claims. Now, Al-Qaeda's leader, they're trying to unite all the terrorists together to fight as one. And we can see why this is happening. The U.S. is calling out to all their individual proxy armies, which are controlled by Mossad, controlled by the UK, MI5, MI6, controlled by CIA. And they're making the call saying, all right, we all need to band together at this point. And we need to make our move on Assad and Russia. And the U.S. right now is trying to coordinate all of this because what's happening right now is the U.S. is bringing in more military assets, more troops, having Europe bring in more of the same because they are preparing for a major offensive. Now, very interestingly, Russia is now bringing in more tanks, and one of their cargo ships has been filmed going through the Bosphorus Strait, and it shows that they are carrying tanks, and these tanks are destined to go to Syria. And we can see at this point in time, they're going to be used there because what's happening is we're seeing a buildup on the U.S. coalition side. We see a buildup on the Russian-Syrian side because they are both getting ready for a major offensive, which the U.S. is going to push. Remember, Russia was invited in by the elected president of the country. It is a sovereign country. The U.S. invaded this country with troops to go after terrorists. It's like Mexico bringing their troops into the United States saying we suspect the Islamic State is there. Canada bringing their troops into the United States saying we're going after Al-Qaeda because we heard there was a shooting in San Bernardino and there was some Islamic State people down in Texas. Would everyone agree to this? No. That means you just invaded a country. This is what the U.S. and the coalition forces have done. They invaded a country. Now, Turkey, they've been sending in special forces into Syria. About 15, 20 Turkish soldiers entered Syria on Saturday. Now, of course, most of the time when they do this, they tell them to bring some missiles with them. They fire them back into Turkey and say, see, Syria is attacking us. Now, the question is, why in the world would Syria all of a sudden start attacking Turkey? Like they don't have enough problems. They wouldn't. Turkey is trying to get into the fight here. They're trying to enact Article 5. They're trying to bring NATO into the fight. And I wouldn't be surprised going forward as this is something we're going to see. Now, Putin is putting out the call that we need all countries to come together to fight global terrorism. Now, of course, the United States coalition forces, they're not going to be helping Putin fight terrorism because they are the terrorists. That's why they didn't invite China, Russia into this fight in the first place. So we have Russia and Syria on one side, U.S. and the coalition on the other side, and they're getting prepared and ready to do something come this August. Now, they're going to need some type of an event to push this forward. And we realize that there's a lot of drills going on. They've been practicing for some type of physical event. We also know that these physical events will most likely be followed by some type of cyber attack because a cyber attack is very difficult to disprove. All the government has to come out and say is that, yes, the financial institutions, they were cyber attacked, and we say it's Russia, we say it's North Korea, we say it's China. And everyone's just going to believe it. And they have this ability to do this because it's complete propaganda. Now we know that they're going to have to use physical attacks to start this off because they're going to have to show it on the news. It's going to have to happen in many different areas, many different cities. Now, it might not be the same exact attack in all areas. For instance, DHS right now, they are preparing to have a drill to train against some type of bioterrorism. So this year, Department of Homeland Security, they're planning a bioterrorism attack in New York City subway system. And what they're going to do is they're going to release gas in the subway system, see how it disperses throughout the system. And what we're looking at right now is that they're training and getting ready for the next event. Now, the question we have to ask ourselves is every time we see this drill, it turns into something real. We've seen this happen many, many times. Or if they're having this drill, what this means is the next couple of months, we're going to see something like this occur. And this is something that we need to watch. Remember, they're putting in a non-toxic gas type of material. It'll be released through the Queens, Manhattan, and Brooklyn stations, and they'll monitor the flow throughout the system. This is a very similar drill that was conducted in California last winter for anthrax. So they're continually doing these drills, even though they're telling us there's no threat whatsoever from the Islamic State. But they're doing these drills because they're getting prepared and ready for something to go live. And this is why they do them. Now, when do we know? Do we know when this is going to go live? No, we don't. But we do know one thing. We know come this August that the U.S. is going to be pushing some type of an event. Now, will it happen in the Middle East? Will it happen in Europe? Will it happen here in the United States? We don't know. But we know there's going to be some type of event where they're going to try to start and push war in the area of Syria. Now, is this going to be the main event? It could be. Because we need to think about this. We have two candidates right now. We really have Trump and Clinton. And we know the establishment, they're completely against Trump. You can see just the way the corporate media is out there. He's not part of the overall system. They'd rather have Clinton. I'd rather just have someone who's there for the people. And whoever that is, that works for me as long as their number one priority is the people, not foreign governments, not corporations, not central banks. But we do have to realize that all of this comes in at the same exact time. The economy is failing. It's getting worse and worse every single day. The illusion is falling apart. Obama has to come out and explain why things aren't going well. There was an emergency meeting with the Fed. There's a problem in the Middle East. Nothing has gone as the U.S. government central bankers planned. They haven't gotten Assad out of power, and they haven't gotten to Iran. As the economy falls apart, they are running out of time. Then we have the elections. Now, do I think Trump will be elected? Even if he is, I don't think he'll last in office that long. I think they will pick him off because they just don't want him there. Now, what can the president do? Well, there could be an event at this time where he can declare a state of emergency. There could be a gas attack, a dirty nuke attack, a cyber attack to bring down the financial system. He can go to Congress. He can say, we're under attack. This is a state of emergency. He can invoke his executive orders, take full control of everything, stop the elections at this time. If you notice, all of this is coming together at the same exact time. We're headed for a perfect storm. And he can't do it too soon. It has to be very close to the election time. So we might see some type of an event out in Syria to start the war where they cancel the ceasefire and the peace talks in August. Moving closer to the elections, we can then see the main event occur at this time where he does declare a state of emergency. But we're going to have to watch the situation very closely because, as we know, their plans always don't work out the way they want them to work out. Things get messed up. Other countries step in and stop it. So we're going to have to watch all of this very, very carefully as we move forward into this year. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.